Hello everyone, my name is Chris Jordan and welcome to Backwards. This is the podcast where I bring on interesting people who I think are doing interesting things and talk to them about their craft and how they started and how they got to where they are now. It's been a few months since the first episode, and for that I really just do say that I'm sorry. I've just been putting it off and making a lot of excuses, but I'm getting back into the swing of things. So now this podcast is going to be going up every single Sunday. I already have next week's episode lined up and ready to go. So this week we're going to start with my good friend Blake Tallent, who is a very, very talented musician who I've been friends with personally for a few years now. And I wanted to bring him on and talk to him about his current projects and his start in music, because I think that he has a lot of good things to say that you can apply if you're a musician yourself, or if you want to be a musician, or, you know, just your day-to-day lives. I think there are things that you can pick up, and I always just love listening to upcoming artists talk about their craft, and I really enjoyed this conversation with Blake. And at the end, he actually premieres one of his unreleased songs, which is great. I think all of his music projects are great, which we get into, and all of the links to his music and his personal stuff will be in the description. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for checking into this episode. I'm so sorry for taking a break. The response to the first episode with Tyler Babin was amazing, and I should have immediately started uploading more episodes. And this one's been done for a while. I was just I don't know, I just put it off, and it was really dumb of me. So if you're sticking around and checking this episode out, I really appreciate it. Stay listening till the end. I just think there's a lot of good things to learn from this, and hopefully you enjoy it. So without further ado, welcome to Backwards with our guest, Blake Tallent. Welcome to the podcast. If you could, just tell the world out there who you are and what exactly it is that you do.
Yeah, I am Blake, and I play music, and I'm a student right now.
What's your project? What do you go by?
I kind of work under a few different names per se. It sort of depends on who I'm involved with at the time, but my songwriting project right now is God Bless Relative. That's the name, but I also play for bands like Old Sea Brigade and My Fever, a few different artists between Nashville and Atlanta at the time.
Cool. So, but God Bless Relative is kind of your main one?
Yeah, it's my songwriting outlet.
And how long have you been doing that one?
Since mid 2015 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the middle of 2015 whenever I think I was writing a song. I was living with my friends Weston and Garrett, and I think Wes popped in, was like, you should make that a thing or something. I don't know. And kind of been doing that ever since.
That's awesome. And you just put out your first EP with that, how long? Like a month ago, 2 months ago, or a few weeks ago? You don't even, okay, no. If you don't know, then it's good that I don't fully remember. Then we're good. We're on the same page. Cool. Well, the whole point of the podcast for me is I want to bring people on and kind of go back to the beginning. So I view you as a pretty successful musician. I think you're doing a lot of really cool stuff. And so I kind of wanted to go back and learn about the beginning. At what age, well, first off, what's your main instrument?
First off, thanks for thinking that about me. And I would say primarily I play guitar for different people.
But you kind of play everything, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, my first instrument was, the drum set.
Mm-hmm. Good choice.
I wanted to be just a rock drummer, pretty much.
I think we all do.
Yeah. I think maybe there's a depth inside of us where we all want to be something that we're not, or everything that we're not,
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to be said about that.
Wow. Well, then cool. So if your first, what age did you start playing music?
I got really serious about it when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I would give people that dead look in their eye. I know exactly who I'm going to be sort of thing. But I don't know how, I don't really know the definition of successful or professional I was. But I would say I got serious about it when I was 10.
Cool. Do you remember what band or song inspired you? For me, straight up, it was the Jonas Brothers.
Sure.
I remember going home, turning on Disney Channel, and the year 3000 music video.
Ask, year 3000, right?
Yeah, that's the one. And I saw them, the garage opens up and they start playing, and I was like, that's what I want to be. So I immediately like went and made my dad like get me like a really like first act guitar, and I started there and stuff like that. So what was like, do you remember hopefully not the Jonas Brothers, because I'm embarrassed to kind of say that. They were also my first concert, but it's just, I don't like to bring that up that much. But so yeah, like, well, who inspired you to kind of, like be a rock star drummer in the beginning?
I saw a live band called Lily White here in Panama City. I was young. I can't remember the exact age. I said 10, but I think what really made me like get into rock and roll was seeing them play live and seeing their energy. I guess their creativity, they were cool. They were like a experimental but heavier rock band in the regard of like, it was like a mix of Radiohead with heaviness to it, but it wasn't like full on, screaming or anything like that. It was like kind of my cup of tea, like the things I liked a lot when I was that age.
That's cool. That was like somebody local that you saw like a live band to like inspire you. It's a better story than mine, and it's definitely
not necessarily.
I mean, I guess it depends on who's listening. Sure. Cool. So you got serious about it when you were 10. Like, did anybody ever like, be negative about it? Was everyone fairly supportive? I mean, like, obviously you're 10 years old, so hopefully no one was putting you down at 10 years old. But as you started to get older, was that a thing that people were negative about?
I mean, yeah, because I wasn't that good. Mm-hmm. No one's really instantly good at what they do, typically, unless they're like a virtuoso or a genius. So, I mean, yeah, everybody, discourages everybody in a regard. It's like a tough race. But one person in particular, I think, was my mentor, which is what I'm thankful for. Mm-hmm. I had a mentor from like the age of 11 or so until 17, 18, and he was pretty damn hard on me.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, he was definitely like the most encouraging yet the most brutal voice in my life musically, I'd say.
In what way? Like, what kind of things did he say to you that would, I mean, like, to make you feel bad, or was it like, man, I want to get better now?
I kind of grew up with a tough skin for the most part. So, it was stuff I could handle for sure. It was kind of maybe what some people would define as really, really brutal. But I mean, I don't know, just random things. Like, he was really emphasizing like pocket for drummers, and stuff like that. He would tell me to listen to people like Steve Jordan, people who can play like in the pocket, out of the pocket, things like that on command, which is really incredible. And I think that when I wouldn't understand certain concepts, I would just, get yelled at or get like a drumstick thrown at me.
Oh, really? So it was like Whiplash. Like, have you seen?
I think it's like Whiplash? A soft core Whiplash for sure. The more and more I think about it, like, it was intense. Yeah.
I think that's good though, because I think that when people don't have somebody that's harsh on them, like if I had the same thing too, like when I went to high school, like my first like drumline instructor was like super.
Sean?
Yeah, his name was Sean.
Yeah.
He was super tough on me. Like, I'm talking like I got thrown on an instrument that I did not know how to play. It was like fifth bass drum. And so in like 2 weeks, I had to like learn how to play it, learn how to march with it. And it was like really, really tough. But from that first thing, I grew like such a thick skin towards criticism and like learned to like take it and apply it. And I think that a lot of people like don't do that. So I think that having like at least one good mentor in your life is super important. And like, would you say that really was probably the person that shaped you the most as a musician?
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. I would say, and two, I think if you're a musician or a creative person, you should never not like have a mentor in your life. Like, I think that it's like really important to never stop like growing in that regard. There's always something like we don't understand or know as creative people. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to have that person who can help you along. So
do you still have like a mentor today, or is it kind of like your friends? Or
I'd say right now it's been more peer driven in the past few years than ever. So like I said earlier, it's funny, the band that influenced me to really want to play music, Lily White, it's weird because I ended up like working with them now.
Cool.
On a regular basis.
That's awesome.
So it's really refreshing and cool to hear their ideas and literally work with them on records to where like, their thoughts really edify me, as a player and as a producer.
That's cool. That's cool that it comes like full circle. I love that. Like when like there's been experiences that I've had where I like look up to stuff and then later on I work for that like thing. Like,
sure.
And I think that's super cool and super important. I want to talk about your experience with like becoming an artist and your terms and kind of like your previous bands and how you like. So like, what age did you start your first actual band?
I was in a couple bands before I started my first band, but my first one was started with my friend Adam Lee called Chelsea Sinking.
Yeah. You know, it's fun. We were not friends at the time, but I went to your concerts, and I think it was
really?
like your album release that you guys had like promoted on the radio and everything. And I actually brought a date to that show.
Oh.
And yeah, no, that
Did you end up getting kissed?
That did not last very long, but
sorry,
it was still cool.
Yeah.
It's okay. It was not meant to be, and now things are much better. But I remember going to that show.
It seems like you're doing really well now.
Yeah, no, life is good. But I remember going to that show and I was like, man, these guys are so cool. And because I was just like, that was one of the first bands locally that I had seen. And I just thought it was super cool. But so
and now
like,
we just hang out.
Yeah, now we're just friends. So it came full circle.
For sure, man.
Took a while, but so you started Chelsea Sinking, and that was at what age? Like 16, 17?
Yeah, 16 or 17. I started with Adam and Matt. Matt's his older brother. He played bass and he wrote most of the songs at that time.
With that being your first band, what kind of things? Because obviously it lasted how many years?
I don't know, man. I know it lasted like a little bit out of high school, which, you know, looking back on that seems a little ridiculous to keep it going that long. But I think like my junior and senior year of high school, I was pretty serious about it.
So about a little bit after high school.
Yeah, a little bit after high school, I'd say. I wasn't going to college or school at the time, but I really wanted to. Like I really like school.
Really?
I like education.
Interesting.
Learning different things. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well then I want to so let's talk about that, because like most people, you're like, okay, I have this dream, like I want to, you know, drop out of school and just like pursue the dream, but you're kind of pursuing the dream, but you're also still like making sure you're in school and all that. So like what about education do you find important? Like what makes you not want to just focus on the music?
I feel like sometimes there's like this two-sided argument where people say school doesn't matter, just experience things, and you know, other people say school matters a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just do things like that. And what I like about education is just, of course, you're going to learn from your peers either way. But say if I do something like online, which I'm currently doing, you know, I'm pursuing a degree online. It's like I have the benefit of learning from these different people and like getting their thoughts and having pretty brilliant like professors and instructors. But at the same time, I can practically, you know, tour and work with artists as much as I want, you know, within reason, you know, so that's a nice benefit. I don't know if that directly answered your question.
No, kind of, yeah. Well, are you studying music though? Is it kind of?
Yeah, music production and business.
Okay, so then it ties in. That's cool.
It works out.
Cool, because like there's a lot of people who are like, you know, they're going to school for, you know, something they don't want to do, while they're also trying to like be creative on the side and make that their thing.
Right.
But with you, you're kind of being smart because you're like being a musician, but you're also learning like behind the scenes and the business side of that. So that's kind of that's a two birds, one stone kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely not a traditional education, you know, like I think all the things I'm interested in, like school wise, would probably be considered useless. Like, I don't know, like after I got this degree, like I would want to get a degree in like something like philosophy or something,
really?
you know,
Wow,
just
okay.
something like no one would, you know, really use that for anything practically. But I mean, I just, you know, I care about being educated in things that interest me per se.
That's awesome.
As long as I can afford it.
Yeah. No, that's super important. Like for me, I'll say that I'm more on the side of like, you know, life's more about experiences than education.
Sure.
Unless you're like studying something that truly does like impact you in a meaningful way. Like right now, I'm just taking biology and I don't care about biology. But if I was studying something about like film, which they don't really offer at the school that I'm at, like that's different. So I do think that that's cool that you are still staying like in college and you're like pursuing education. And I think that's cool. I just wanted to go on that tangent for a second, just kind of hear your thoughts on that. So back to the bands, I wanted to know, so like you had that first band, and then how did that shape you? Like you started it, you guys had shows, you made a record and everything. What did you learn from that went into your next band, which was My Fever? Is that correct?
Yeah. That is the case. What I learned out of that is just don't really trust anyone.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Yeah. So, it's kind of weird. I don't really tell people about this, but that band, I sunk my initial college fund into that band. What I mean by that is we worked with a PR company and this talent agency that is built on promising these weird things like freedom and as an artist and in returns as a successful artist and things like that. So my family and I sunk a lot of money into that in hopes that I would be successful as some sort of artist figure or something like that. And when returns were a little diminished and I figured out that honestly at the end of the day we were not really that good. Mm-hmm. That was definitely a bummer, and it taught me a huge lesson to just, stay a little more skeptical. And it also, honestly probably drove me now to be, like we just talked about, stay educated and keep learning about things because ignorance is kind of awful in situations like that.
Yeah. So, wow. So, it didn't really work out, but were you unless you don't want to talk about it, were you did they cheat you out of your money? Was it that sort of thing? Are you saying
oh no, it was all on me.
Okay,
it's, like I said, it was just ignorance.
So don't be be smartly optimistic. Would that be kind of the message you're trying to?
Yeah, sure. Be aware.
Yeah. Because definitely. I wouldn't say that the music was awful. I went to that concert. I thought it was cool, but I do think that there's a lesson there. It's don't go too far over your head with certain things maybe until you feel ready. I'm just trying to understand that situation a little bit.
Well, I think it's maybe what I'm trying to say is everybody's trying to make $1, so just ask more questions why they're trying to make that $1.
Yeah. Okay.
And how.
Cool. Yeah, I think if a lot of people are listening that are interested in being musicians and kind of going that route, because the bands that I'm in, we haven't done any sort of thing like that where we've reached out to PR people, and I'm always kind of skeptical, and I think a lot of people can be, because it is sort of that you're paying these people to hopefully in return give you certain success, and obviously it will come down to sometimes some of the music, but also kind of making sure that money goes in the right place to the right people, and to do that right thing. So that's interesting to know. But from that band, you went on to do My Fever.
Yeah, well, and in between that, I kind of quit for a second.
Really?
I quit music for 3 weeks or something.
I was wow, I don't think I even noticed that you stopped playing ever, but
yeah, it was just a exercise to see okay, well, that didn't work out. Would this work? And it's no, not really.
Wait, so was that after the Chelsea Seeking stuff kind of stopped? You quit?
Yeah, it was after that ended, the guys moved home. Mm-hmm. I was I can't do this right now. I literally can't respond to this ending with more of what we just did. And so, yeah, there was a period where I was, looking at other options for schooling and things like that.
Wow. That's crazy. To me, that's crazy to hear. But that's good that you 3 weeks passed and then you were just okay, no, I can't be done.
Yeah, well, 3 weeks passed, and then I discovered this place called Hillsong College and decided to go there for a year and try to be a pastor. Yeah. Where it still involved music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for people that, I'm sure a lot of people kind of know what Hillsong is, but for people that don't, can you kind of break it down a little bit more?
It's just a mega church.
Just a mega church. Yeah. That has a lot of... And so you were going to be a music pastor or a...
Yeah, something like that. I think it was it was a situation of an ignorant kind of drive to be this idea of a young pastor that played music. Mm-hmm. And so I was that sounds cool. I'll go to school for a year. Well, originally the plan was 3 years, then come back and plant a church or something, whatever everyone is doing in the South. Mm-hmm. When there is already a church on every single corner in the South.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you had Chelsea Sinking, quit for 3 weeks, then kind of was like, I'm gonna go to Hillsong, do that whole thing. But then you came back here, and while you were there though, like that's when you started this other band, My Fever, correct? And then so like then you finally came home and you guys started
Or
playing.
no, it wasn't while I was there. I'm sorry. I started the band with Wes right before I moved.
Okay.
And
So then you moved away, but you guys were still like trying to figure out how to make it work while you were.
It's kind of complicated. It's like this thing of like we started the band and then we were like taking steps to towards being more serious and like being a little more established as a group. And then Wes decided he didn't want to do music anymore and just wanted to do like the pastor thing. And I was like, well, fine, I will do that too, I guess. You know.
Interesting.
And then while I was over there, Wes had hit me up saying like, dude, I want to be serious about this now. Like I want to do it again. I want you involved. I'm just like, you suck right now. Like,
wait, so did you go like after he had decided that? Was that where you're like, okay, I guess I'll go to Hillsong, which was in Australia?
Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like, did he say that and then you went to Sydney?
No, I had been in Sydney for about half a year.
Okay.
Maybe a little less than half a year. And he was like, I want to do a band seriously now. And I've always believed in Wes as a writer and as a musician. So it was very easy for me to say yes to doing that. And so my 3 years got cut short to 1 year.
So then you came back for that band.
I did.
And so tell me about that experience, because this is like, now you've entered another point of your life where you had one band, you learned quite a bit, and you came to this one that you guys were going to take very serious. And so what kind of lessons did you learn, or like what kind of things were you thinking about going into that? Because I feel like some people may be listening that are at a certain point in their band where they're like, okay, I want to kick it into the next level, start taking it serious, or people who maybe one day are going to be in a band and want to take it serious, not just be, you know, a garage band. So like what kind of things were you going into it this time?
Well, my mentality was just to make, I guess, the best records we could within the definitions of what we thought was good or what we thought was awesome. I don't know. We grew up on a lot of records from 90s-ish groups. Well, I can't speak for Wes and Garrett. I don't really know the music they grew up on because I don't even know if they had TV. I think they were one of those families. But you know, myself, like going into it, I just wanted to simply make records like them, like Lily White, you know, but like an expansion on it, I think. Or like Radiohead, you know. Just like any kind of band like that was kind of like the motive to make like the best version of that we could within our own original ideas.
How did that go? I mean, it's been a few years now that band's been together. So how do you think it's gone since then? Like what sort of things have you learned from that?
I would say a huge lesson I've personally learned from that is learn to work with people better.
Yeah, because I mean, being in a band, like, I mean, you're working together with your bandmates, but then you also have to worry about, I mean, I'm sure like the producers you work with, picking the right people for that, picking the right people to do media stuff with and all that thing. Like how do you go about making sure that, you know, you're treating everyone like in a professional and like a positive way?
I would say for me, it was just learning empathy. I think after the Chelsea Sinking stuff had ended, I became like a pretty like hard, unapproachable person because of like the horrible taste that left in my mouth. And so like, and there was some other stuff like with the church that made me a little bitter, I guess. And so I became just kind of a bitter dude. Yeah. And I stayed that way through like the course of while I was working directly with My Fever as like a member. Yeah. And so it wasn't like a completely positive experience for that reason. Interesting. You know, so empathy is huge for me now. Like I always try to emphasize that in my life all the time.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people would be in that same situation. I mean, if you have like some certain goal and it doesn't kind of like, or a dream and it doesn't work out at first, you know, I think a lot of people could be bitter, but I think it's important that, you know, you've grown from that. I think a lot of people may not grow from that and will stay the same. I think it's cool that you've like realized that after just a little bit and you've changed that. So now that you were in My Fever for a few years, but now recently you play with them, but you're not like an official member. Is that?
No. Yeah. I've been working with a few other artists that it brought me to a point to where I needed to see my way out of that group as a full-time member. And I still work with them. Like I just worked with them on this latest record that they'll release. And I'm trying to go more of like a production route.
Really?
Like, and just working with artists that way. But after my friend Ben Kramer showed up, who is Old Sea Brigade, life just got way too busy to commit to only one band. Yeah.
How many bands are you in?
3 or 4.
And do you find that like, hard?
I don't know.
Yeah. that's a good answer. Do you find it hard to balance all of those different bands? Like remembering all the music, keeping up with all the different schedules. Is that tough?
No.
No? That's awesome.
Not really, because they're all just my friends. It's just a matter of, they're my best friends, I should say. These dudes are just people I can walk into a room with, whether it's Ben, Lee Hicks, Dustin Price. These are just people that we have like mutual understandings of each other, and we just want to make great music, and so we do.
That's awesome.
As simple as that.
I think that's like, and I've always seen that from like the outside, and I've always thought that's like super cool. Like that's kind of the dream, I think, for a lot of musicians, just to like play with your best friends, and you were able to do that with like multiple bands. And I think that's really freaking cool. I want to talk to you kind of about your latest project.
God Bless Relative is basically a communal band. It's not really, it's my songs and my ideas, but like the people who play on my records and the people who I have out on tour when we play live, it's never the same band per se. So you never really know who you're going to get. And I think that's what's like really special about being in the studio also. I know we've only made one record, but we're working on the new songs now, and this will be like the newer opportunity for like other people to like be involved in like the music making, which will be really interesting to see since that has worked out so well live so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, so like does the experience change between members? Like do people like kind of write their own parts, or is it all like the album parts?
Well, that's the best part. Do you know what I mean? So like the best part of some records can be like this random thing that, say, like my friend Luke did on Luke Seeger, who's a fabulous drummer. So like the smallest like sounds on certain records, like just like little like taps or something, those can be like the biggest parts of like what makes a record good, right? And I think that what's really cool to see is how other friends of mine who play live interpret that, or do it differently. And so it's just this funny.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's just really cool to see how like even the smallest details of music can be interpreted by people. Yeah.
So, I'm sure you plan on doing this project for a while. Do you have a vision for it? Like, where do you want to see it in 5 years? Like, do you want to make it your full-time thing? Or you just mentioned that you wanted to do production. Like, are you trying to become like a full-time touring artist, or are you trying to just like, you're playing music, you're touring when you can, but do you want to like mainly be a producer?
Yeah. Well, like the goals are a bit ambitious, but like my dream is like a mix between like Blake Mills and Butch Walker, which are both like producers who are also fabulous artists, in my opinion. And so that's like the goal that I've been working toward. So yeah, like I definitely want to have some sort of songwriting outlet that's like strictly just cathartic for me, because I need that shit, while also like having the capacity and time to just work with bands and try to like, as a producer or as an engineer, just try to give them the best session, try to make the best record for them as an artist, and assist them and be there for them.
That's cool. You just want to be all about the music.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Well, cool. I think the last thing before we have you play a song for the people out there so they can get a taste of, we've been talking for like 30 minutes, but what do you sound like? Well, I think you sound awesome. But the last question I kind of wanted to ask was, for anybody that is listening that is a musician, or maybe there's people out there that, want to be a musician, but they're like, I don't have the time for that. I'm not good enough. Like, what is your biggest piece of advice to people that are musicians or want to be musicians?
I would say if I had advice for whatever that is worth, it is don't take compliments seriously and take results more seriously. So especially as creative people, we can be caught in this culture where we're always like being encouraged by people, and like everyone's a genius. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're a
no,
genius
absolutely.
for doing this. You're a virtuoso, and it's like, don't take that shit seriously.
Do you think it's dangerous to take that serious? Because like, I mean, with myself, like doing a lot of video stuff and music stuff, like compliments, I've gotten to the point where like I kind of do think sometimes for the compliments, and if I don't get it, it kind of makes me feel like, oh, well, maybe this isn't as good. I've recently realized like you're saying, it's not about that. And if
Right.
people are complimenting you, like it's bad. But do you think it's dangerous to?
I'm not saying compliments are bad per se. I'm just saying,
I mean, if you're getting compliments, at least you're probably doing something right. But
sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, to each his own in that regard. But what I love about you, Chris, and like the stuff you do with like video work is like, you're saying, sure, you may not get as many compliments as you want for like what you're doing. You may not be like reciprocated for the hard work you're putting in that regard, but I see the results you're making, and I feel like just the art itself should be as rewarding
absolutely.
as a quote unquote compliment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's all that really matters in the end. Also, if there's another piece of advice, it's just make art that edifies you as a person.
Well, cool. That's really all the questions that I have for you. I appreciate you sitting down and answering these. But for now, let's go. Let's play a song.
Okay, man. This is a song I wrote a few nights ago, so it won't be heard on a record for a long time.
So this is like
exclusive
behind the scenes.
Chris. This is a song called Soggy Humans.
See me perched in your tree in the dark. Are you now frightened? What made you think that some man couldn't hurt a fly? You've got a shift in the morning to clean up some soggy humans. After you tend to the pillbillies in town tonight. Oh, I'm emptying my pockets to play a song for you tonight. I'm dizzy like you too, but just a little more out of everyone's sight. Not the best, just depressed, it's a little oversaturated. When did you say that this party was supposed to die? In the water you pondered, you need some revelation. I can float for hours down your river tonight. Oh, I get us a map. If my hands could be untied. I know your analog heart only loves saying goodbye. Oh, saying goodbye.
And that is the end of today's episode. Thank you guys seriously so much for listening. I hope you got a lot from this. I hope you enjoyed. Now, if you want to share this podcast around, I would really, really appreciate it. Other than that, every single Sunday, this podcast will be uploaded. For right now, I'll be going on my YouTube channel. It's on SoundCloud, and I'm working on getting it on iTunes. So just be checking in, or you can follow me on all my social media, where I will also be spamming everybody, trying to get them to listen. But I'm going to go. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you next week on Backwards.